So in this installment of reviewing for Python, we are going to look at conditionals, if, then, else statements. Well, okay, it's if, else if, and then else statements. For a simple example, we are going to go back to our lollipop program, and we're going to ask to input a lollipop flavor. Just to make sure that we are looking at the right kind of input, I'm going to convert that to lowercase. So you could type something in an uppercase, or maybe first letter might be capital, whatever. We're going to standardize what that is by making sure that it's all in lowercase. And then we're going to do something very simple. We're just going to check to see if the person typed in cherry, grape, or lime. And the way we set this up is we say if it's a cherry, we're going to print out that your lollipop is red. At least we hope it would be. Else, if it's not cherry, then maybe you typed in grape, and we're going to go for purple. And then else, maybe lime, green, or else if, I should say, because in the final catch-all, there's an else, which says, I don't know what you're going for here. So if I run this, and I type in grape, and I'm going to get purple. I run it again, and I can type in lime, and maybe something like this. So the first two, first two characters are capital, but it doesn't matter because I converted it all to lower. And then, what if I had a pumpkin lollipop? So notice up here, I haven't checked to see anything about pumpkin, but that falls through into this catch-all else statement. And it's just going to say, I don't know what you got there. So let's look a little bit more at conditionals and what the kinds of things that you can put inside an if or an else if. And we're going to go over to point. So you can put together conditionals. A conditional statement is anything that returns a true or false, and then you can piece true or false statements together using and, or, not. So I'm going to input a point. I'm going to go all the way to the top. I'm going to input a point. So we're going to input x and y. The abscissa and the ordinate is what their technical names are. Print out what the point is, and then we're going to determine which quadrant that point is in. Now, when you do an input, inputs and outputs in Python come in as strings. I want to check these as integers, so I'm going to convert them to an integer using the int command, and I'm just going to send them back to x and y. I'm not going to declare new variables to do that. And then we're going to check to see if x and y are greater than 0 or less than 0. Or actually equal to 0, would be the last case. So if they're both greater than 0, we're in the first quadrant. If just x is less than 0, you're in the second quadrant. If they're both less than 0, you're in the third. And if x is greater than 0 and y is less than 0, you are in the fourth quadrant. And I should say quadrant. I don't know why I said quarter. And then there's one more case left. And then when you're writing if, then, or if, else statements, you got to be really careful to make sure that you're catching all the possibilities. You don't want to find out later that you're running this piece of code and it's breaking because you missed a possibility. In this case, it looks maybe like I have all the possibilities here, but what if they're both 0? In that case, you're at the origin. So, run this. And we'll put in 0 and 0. And so if I'd forgotten that last else condition, then if somebody had run my program and actually put in 0, 0, I wouldn't have gotten any output back. And if another program was depending on this to get the right quadrant, then we'd have a problem. We'll just do one more, and -1 and 1. So we're in the second quadrant. Oh, and then I hit run. That's not going to work. I want to hit enter. So we're in the second quadrant. Okay. I'm going to stop the second version of point. And another version, instead of using ands, you can use ors. So in this case, I'm going to print out a simple menu here. Offer somebody a choice of Pepsi, Coke, Mountain Dew, milk, glass of milk, milkshake, water, or whatever as the last choice. And in the first three choices where we're choosing a soda, I'm going to say watch the sugar. In the second set, 4 and 5, where they're choosing something that has milk in it or dairy products, then we're going to say cows taste good, which may be a little distasteful, but you know. For water, we're going to say that's a good thing, way to get hydrated. And if you choose whatever, we're going to be kind and say, hey, you know, being flexible is good. And then in the else condition, this is kind of the catch-all condition. So the person entering didn't type in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. We are going to say, hey, that's not a valid choice. We are not putting this menu in a loop, so they don't get a chance to make another choice unless they run the program again. And one other thing I want to point out is when choice comes in, that is a string. So when we're doing this checking, we're comparing this against the string one. Notice that over here in point, we compared x against the number 0, and we did that because we wanted to use a greater than condition. And so if you're going to talk about greater than, you need to be thinking about, you need to be using numbers. But in this case, since we just want to check equality, then it's fine to use strings. I could have converted this to an integer and just checked to see if choice is greater than or equal to 1, less than or equal to 3. That would have been another way to do this, but I was sort of trying to illustrate that we can do an OR here. Turns out, well, I'm running the wrong program. There is another way to do this, which we will see in a second. So I get to choose 1. If I choose 2, then it's going to tell me to watch the sugar. And if I choose 5, and say cows taste good, and so on. So just the idea that you can put conditional statements together using ands or ors. There's also a not command. There would actually be another way to do this OR condition, and I'm going to go look at this using what's called in. And I'm going to set up 2 lists, apple, cherry, blueberry, and raspberry. We'll call that the fruit list, and for lack of a better name, we'll call the yum list chocolate, peanut butter, banana, cream. And we're going to say what's your favorite kind of pie. And so here's our condition, if pie is in fruit. So if I type in blueberry, for example, into the input, now the input's going to give us a string, so if I type in blueberry, it's going to check, is that string blueberry in this list fruit? So if pie in fruit, and if so, then I'm going to say you like fruit pie. Otherwise, if it finds that string in yum, it'll say you like non-fruit pies. I really kind of lost my imagination on that one. And then last, in the else, the catch-all, is going to say, basically, if you don't like one of those kinds of pies, you got a problem. I guess a personal opinion. Okay, so favorite kind of pie. Let's see, what do we like? Let's be a little obstinate and say I like chocolate cake. And it's going to say, what is your problem? As it probably should if it's asking about pies. Maybe I like blueberry. I say you like fruit pie. True story. I don't want picking the ones that I have to type the most. So maybe I like banana cream. You like fruit pie. You like non-fruit pie. I read that wrong. Couldn't figure out why the program wasn't working. You like non-fruit pie. Okay. So, quick review of conditional statements. If, else if. So this is executed if this is not true. And it has another condition in here that it checks. And finally, you get to the else clause. This does not have a condition. This is just executed if none of the other conditions above were true. So that's the catch basin.